From the biblical era to our modern time, not too many places are documented like the city of Acre, also known in Hebrew as Akko. Standing on the shore of Israel's northern Mediterranean coast, Akko has a history which goes back to the 16th century BCE. The Bible mentions Akko only once as a target for the Asher Israelite tribe who tried to conquer the city from the Canaanites. But perhaps one of the most interesting eras of Akko came during the time of the Crusaders.
Acre is a very ancient town with 5,000 years of history, but it has known two periods during which Acre was the capital of the whole country. And this happened during the Crusaders' time, later on during the Turkish mandate. So if we begin with the Crusaders, they arrived here by the end of the 11th century. They stayed around 200 years in the Holy Land. During all the 13th century, the Crusaders couldn't conquer Jerusalem, and so Acre became the capital of the whole Crusader Kingdom. It was a very important period for our city. We found some documents showing that every day we had around 60, 70 boats anchoring in our port.
Akko became a major battlefield between the Crusaders and the Muslim forces. During the 13th century, it was a source of dispute between two republics, Venice and Genoa.
Here we are in a Crusader dungeon. Why a dungeon? First of all, if you look around, no windows. It was quite an obscure place. About access to this dungeon, there is just one behind me. We entered the place through a bridge that was made into the wall in order to access this hall during the excavations. And further on, if you look on the walls at a regular level, you will see these halls. You have to imagine these poor prisoners shackled to the walls. From different documents, we learned that they were putting in this jail, Crusader jail, burglars or pickpockets or drunk people they caught in the street, and probably also prisoners of war in order to be exchanged later on.
A walk inside this ancient complex gives us a rare glimpse into life at the time of the Crusaders, when Akko was a metropolis of tens of thousands of residents.
We are in a Crusader Street. All the illustrations you can see around were taken from archives and museums in Europe in order to make our visitors feel as if they were walking around in an actual Crusader Street. We can see the people selling stuff, buying stuff. If we have a look at the floor, at the actual authentic Crusader level with the stones, we did continue with the excavations under this level and found underneath, under the street level, an underground water reservoir. It seems that at the Crusaders' time they had a kind of pool on the roof to collect raining water. Here we are going to enter the dining hall of the Crusaders. All the maps we found were in Latin, so it was refectorium, refectory. We found many documents about these Crusaders. For example, we know that during the meals they were sitting along long tables, on long benches. Just the boss was sitting on a nice and comfortable chair at the head of the table. And in English, we use the term the chairman. The chairman comes from this period. The man on the chair, the only one that was sitting so comfortably. Here we are in the crypt of St. John, meaning that at the Crusaders' time we had a big church on top of this building. It was the Church of St. John, the church of the whole Hospitallers' quarter. This church had been destroyed by the Mamelukes, but they left the crypt underneath, the place where the Crusaders used to bury the important people of the city. And actually we found two tombstones, marble tombstones. This one belonged to the last bishop of Nazareth, who died here in Acre, and the other one was the one of the 18th Grand Master of the Hospitallers, with a very long and interesting inscription in Latin.
This room, called the Beautiful Hall, was a chapel of the Crusaders. It is inspired from the Gothic architecture, which was common during medieval times.
So in front of us We have a gargoyle that was found during the excavations. It's a Crusader gargoyle, and supposedly it was on top of a church. We are in a chapel, so probably on top of it. And the water, it was part of the water system. The raining water was going through this gargoyle, and that's why, as we can see in Paris, in Notre Dame, also this gargoyle adds always like a very frightening appearance, like a kind of monster, as you can see.
This 350-meter-long tunnel is named after its creators, the Knights Templar, also known as the Order of the Temple of Solomon. The Templars were a military monastic order who came to Acre during the 12th century CE. Their main purpose was to avoid paying taxes.
The Templars were a group of half monks, half soldiers from the Crusaders' time, and their fortress was near the lighthouse, nowadays lighthouse. But in between their quarter and the port at the time were the quarter belonging to the Italian city of Pisa. And each time our Templars wanted to get to the port for trade, they had to ask for special permission. They had to pay taxes to the peasant people. Didn't like it at all. That's why they excavated direct access. So we had here an underground street making the connection in between the port and the Templars' quarter.
The 16th century saw the rise of the Ottoman Empire in Acre, but the ongoing battles over this substantial port city continue. One of the sites most associated with the Ottoman regime in Acre is the Turkish Bathhouse, also known as Hammam el-Bashra, which was built during the end of the 18th century by the governor of Acre, Jazar Pasha.
People were coming here separately, men and women. Men got nice massage. It is said that the pregnant women used to come here to give birth. Mothers came here to check for a bride for their son. A very, cultural and social meeting place. People used to lie down on the marble and, got a nice massage. There are all kind of private little rooms for the richer people of the city. They could have these private places for themselves.
In the pages of history, Acre has a unique place as a city, which never surrendered to the great French leader Napoleon in 1799. The remains of the wall on the shores of Acre are perhaps a reminder to that famous siege, which became a legend.
At the time, we had a wall that was built by the Bedouin chief of the Galilee, Dar el-Omar. It was a smaller wall than what we can see nowadays. But anyway, it was enough to stop Napoleon. During the 2 months, he put a siege on the city. After Napoleon left, Ahmad el-Jazar, the Ottoman leader of Acre, built the big walls we can see nowadays because he was quite afraid that Napoleon would try to come back with a big army.
Acre survived 6 famous sieges during its history, and today it is a major center of coexistence for Jews, Muslims, Christians, and even members of the Baha'i faith. But many of its secrets are yet to be uncovered.
96% of the city is still to be discovered. So many surprises, treasures still waiting for us.